Cry, Eagles, cry. On our way to misery. Cry, Eagles, cry. On our way to misery. FUCKTHEBIRDS. Fuck the birds. I'm your host, Rick Areno. Welcome back to another episode of the Six Borough Sports Podcast. And it is a glorious night. The Eagles just got eliminated from the NFL postseason, and every Giants fan and Cowboys fan and Commanders fan and even just NFL fans in general can rejoice at that gaggle of losers and divas and prima donnas and complete jerk-offs is out of the playoffs. It is a beautiful night, especially because everything else around the New York area has been going so wrong the last couple of weeks. It has been so long since I've seen you guys, and this is the one thing that's happened recently that has given me any joy in my life whatsoever, sports-wise. Sorry, Jalen Hurts. Sorry, Trader Saquon. Sorry, A.J. Brown. You should probably complain about getting more targets after your 4 drops tonight. But hey, go Niners. Let's keep it rolling. Dad, I'm sorry about your Jags. They gave the Bills everything they had today, and it just wasn't enough. Josh Allen, I think, is on a mission without Pat Mahomes there standing in his way this year. These playoffs have delivered, though, to be completely honest, and all of these teams seem like they are playing a completely different sport than the Jets or the Giants. They're just so much better at every facet of the game, at special teams, at defense, at offense. They can actually not make getting a first down look impossible unless you are the Eagles. I know that was a bit of a sore subject for you guys tonight because you guys are fucking miserable on offense, and it's hilarious to watch when you guys don't have one member of your offensive line that isn't a complete all-pro offensive tackle. You guys completely fall apart. It is so funny to watch, and how bad Jalen Hurts is when he's not completely surrounded by all pros at every single position. I really do think Jackson Dart might be the best quarterback in the NFC East after all is said and done. Dak is good, but he has plenty of weapons around him too. And Jackson was making offense look somewhat decent with just Wan'Dale Robinson as his number one target. And of course, we all know my thoughts on Darius Slayton at this point. But to keep it on the Giants and the teams that we actually do care about and have a soul, sort of, I hope that you fans that were rooting for the Giants to win these last 2 games are happy. Because Fernando Mendoza looks unbelievably good. I thought he was going to be a good NFL quarterback. He just might be a top 10 quarterback for the Raiders next year. And the Giants, all they had to do was not beat the Cowboys' third stringers last week. It's bad enough that they beat the Raiders, but when they got a second opportunity after Raiders beat the Kansas City Chiefs in a meaningless game, all the Giants had to do was sit their players in the second half, and they probably would have lost to the Cowboys. And we had to go out there and get a culture win for John Mara, who looks awful undergoing his treatments for cancer right now. He looks like a completely different person. When the team published that video of them handing out the game ball at the end of the game in the locker room, I was already pissed off enough as it was. And the fact that they were giving it to John Mara as if it was some sort of meaningful win and as if they were doing it for him is such bullshit. And to add insult to a top of injury, the Giants decide to retain Joe Shane, which is what was exactly going to happen and exactly what I said was going to transpire. And we might lose out on John Harbaugh because of it. Supposedly, John Harbaugh wants to be able to come in and pick or help management find a GM fit that will work together with him, which for a coach of the caliber of John Harbaugh, you do not limit yourself to be able to put that man in charge of your team. That man is a proven winner. For whatever reason, the last couple of years in Baltimore didn't work out. He won a Super Bowl with one of the best defenses ever, and Joe Flacco is quarterback. I love Joe Flacco, but let's be real. He was a poor man's Eli Manning at the end of the day. John Harbaugh would give this team credibility. He would give them stabilization that the Maras and the Tisch family so desperately crave, because God forbid we fire another general manager. Again, because of optics, we want to all of a sudden pretend that we have standards or lack of standards. Thanks for Dan Duggan publishing that article, by the way, on this. Yeah. If you guys have not had a chance to read that, it is a scalding hot review of the Giants front office and all of the shortcomings and all of the nepotism and corruption that has allowed this franchise to be at the depths of which it is currently. And it's because they don't have any standards anymore. They just like to pretend they do. Last year, John Mara said that at this point of the year, if he is still upset, then there are changes going to be made. And so far, the only change that has been made has been Brian Daboll being fired. And now that we're looking back on it, he's probably not the person to blame. And I, along with many other Giants fans, are willing to admit that we might have been wrong, because Mike Kafka has done a piss poor job of leading these Giants in the last couple of weeks of the season. I don't care that they beat the third stringers on the Raiders and the third stringers on the Cowboys, and neither should you. If you think Jackson Dart getting reps and his confidence against practice squad level players is good for this franchise and sacrificing out on draft position that we could have absolutely leveraged to plug multiple other holes on this team with, you are lost, my friend. You do not know ball whatsoever. And it really is a shame that we have to have this conversation every single year. The Giants have won 4 of their last 8 games in the last 3 years. 4 games in 3 years. That's half of their win total. In weeks 17 and 18 after we're eliminated from the playoffs. It fucks up our draft position. And every year we hear the same thing from Mr. about how he saw good things from the team towards the end of the year, and he thinks that they're about to break out when we're playing literal UFL level roster players. And I really don't care, Mr. Mara, that you are going through cancer treatments. This is a multi-billion-dollar organization. If you cannot be there to manage and run this organization like a true owner should be able to, you should have had a contingency plan in place. Not that I trust your family, Chris Mara and Steve Tisch, to do anything about it, because they're just as competent as you are. But at least it would have shown that you have the right business mind to actually know that a billion-dollar football team is not just a mom-and-pop pizza restaurant. You should be managing it a little bit more diligently, I'd say. That's just my take on it. But what do I know? I'm just a fan. I'm just a guy with a podcast microphone who probably shouldn't have it anyway. But I would think if I was in charge of a multi-billion-dollar company, I would have a little bit of business acumen and foresight to know what to do. And instead, we're stuck with Joe Schoen again, after he has regressed every single year since the complete and utter fluke that was 2022, 9 games, and won a playoff game. It's clear that you did that mostly with Dave Gettleman's roster. Taking a look at your draft classes the past couple of years, it is ugly business. Forget about hitting on first-round picks. We don't have any depth. And that's your doing, Joe Schoen. We have no depth. We're going to have to pay Cordell Flott. He's already going to be a free agent. Other than that, we might not ever see Kayvon Thibodeau again as a Giant. Dexter Lawrence looks like a shell of himself. And truthfully, these last 2 weeks of this season were more agonizing than the last couple where we were losing every week because we know that we're just going in circles again and the cycle is going to start over and over again. And I'm so sick of having this conversation every year. The Jets are in rarefied air, I guess, if you'll call it, the first team ever to not have one interception in an entire season. I really like Aaron Glenn. I really thought him coming from Dan Campbell, he was going to be a great head coach, and he ran a great defense with the Lions. So I thought that the Jets were going to do well. And I understand that Quinnen Williams and Sauce are no longer on the team. But as a defensive head coach, and for you to not be able to at least luck into one interception, that's a tough look, man. You can't allow that to happen. Do I think Aaron Glenn should get one more year? Yes. I say that very reluctantly. Because if the Jets get Dante Moore in the draft, and he looked real bad the other night against Indiana. Fernando Mendoza made it no question that he is the quarterback one in this upcoming draft, and Dante Moore is a distant second. And that really says all we need to know about the QB class coming out from this year. I don't think Dante Moore is your answer at quarterback. And it seems like you're going to have to ride with him. Are you going to be able to bring in the personnel to develop Dante Moore into being a middle-of-the-pack quarterback? We don't need a franchise savior at this point. Let's start with the Jets having a quarterback and drafting a quarterback that isn't out of the league in 5 years. Sam Darnold is lucky he found Kevin O'Connell at Minnesota. He completely revitalized his career. Being in Carolina nearly killed it. And then going under Shanahan and sitting as a backup for Purdy for a year probably also helped save his career, because I feel like Shanahan really knows how to develop his quarterbacks outside of Trey Lance. But if Aaron Glenn is going to ride with Dante Moore as his quarterback that's going to save his job, he probably should look to start getting his resume polished up towards the end of next year. Because I don't think it's going to be very pretty. The Jets have plenty of first-round picks this year, sure. I don't trust them to draft them all properly. They need to hit, and they need to hit home runs with every single one with how bad that roster was this year. But the end of that season is ugly. And I know that you weren't going to beat the Bills in Highmark Stadium in the last game ever played at Highmark Stadium. But Mitch Trubisky putting up 35 on you, that's not the best look. And then on top of it, the Jets had the nerve to tweet out how their offensive line was the only team in the NFL this season to start all 5 guys for all the games. And it couldn't have been a more tone-deaf and obtuse tweet coming from the Jets. I feel for the social media managers, because that was Woody Johnson being like, we need to put out some positive PR, and this is how we're going to do it. And the social media managers just had no choice. But that was a terrible look. And I don't know where the Jets go from here. They probably need to hire a new defensive coordinator. They're probably going to need a new OC also. I don't know how you keep any of that coaching staff outside of Aaron Glenn around. I think Aaron Glenn needs to wipe the slate clean. But the Jets continue to do Jets things, and I don't see it getting better anytime soon, even with all the picks that you have this year. In Yankee land, I'm just about done with this team also. It seems like the Yankees are fully out on Cody Bellinger, and that will be it. They still haven't added anyone outside of re-signing Ahmad Rosario. They're the only team in Major League Baseball that hasn't added a Major League player to their roster this year, outside of Kyle, I don't even know what his actual name is, some reliever from the Astros who was in between the minors and the majors last year. So he doesn't even count. They haven't added one Major League rosterable player to the team. And we're getting these smoke signals. Maybe they're a smoke screen that the Yankees are in on Kyle Tucker now and maybe in on Bo Bichette. But given how this regime has run the team in the past 25 years, I don't expect the Yankees to land either. And it's unfortunate because I really did think that Bellinger was a necessity in the lineup. He made the team better. He lengthened the lineup. But the team wasn't good enough with him on the roster. The team wasn't even close to good enough to win a World Series with him on the roster. And now we have to hope that Kyle Tucker is just going to sign with us. It's already been reported that he is shopping around with the Mets. Like, the Mets might swoop in it and give him a deal way more than what Kyle Tucker's worth. Until I see a post from the Yankees Instagram or from Bob Clappish or one of the Yankees beat writers, I am not believing anything. Their hot stove episodes that they have like once every couple weeks, it's just Jack Curry reiterating the same thing, that the Yankees are checking in. They already lost out on Edward Cabrera, who went to the Cubs. Ime Tatsunaka signed with the Astros. Akamoto signed with the Blue Jays. Again, the Blue Jays keep getting better. Yankees have done nothing. It doesn't seem like they're motivated at all to improve the team. All we hear about is them checking in on and inquiring about and blah, 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 blah. It's all we hear. And I'm glad that the fan base is finally woken up. Whenever I'm looking on Twitter, it seems like the general sentiment around this front office is at the lowest it's ever been. I think the Yankees fan base has finally woken up to how bad and how mismanaged this team has been over the last 16 years, and how close we are to wasting Aaron Judge's career, how close he is to being another diamond. And for that type of Yankee fan that's on the fence, going to the Bronx opening day, and $30 on a chicken bucket, and another $20 for 2 beers, maybe a beer. It's probably like $18 for a tall boy of that Blue Point Brewery. Just don't go. Don't go. Show how that we, the fans, are the ones who pay these players' salary. And if you're going to continue to waste our time as well as Aaron Judge's time and Garrett Cole's time, like what are we doing here, man? Just at some point, Yankee Stadium should only be filled with the casual fans, with those that are going as a tourist attraction. We're going to Yankee Stadium to see a game. Don't give these guys your money anymore. It's unconscionable how this team is being run. Brian Cashman always talks about how teams are always upcharging the Yankees in terms of costs on what they want if they wanted to trade for a player, or a player just wasn't worth the money that they were going to invest in them. You know, you might have some ugly contracts 5-6 years down the line. But you know what else is 5-6 years down the line? Judge's 39th and 40th birthday. Live with those contracts. Live with the idea that those contracts are going to be awful in 5-6 years. Because we have maybe 2 to 3 more at most of prime Aaron Judge. I would not be surprised if Aaron Judge comes out next year and it has like 30 home runs. As much as I hate to say it, he's going to be 34. Or he is 34. Time is not on the Yankees' side, and they keep acting like they have all the time in the world. And it's infuriating. And the only way that we're going to wake this ownership group up and Brian Cashman up is if they see the first week in April or end of March, whenever opening day is, if the stadium is half full. You don't think that's going to raise some questions for Hal? To Brian Cashman, saying, hey, what is going on here? This is our worst opening day in years. It's going to be ridiculous that he even has to ask that question, because he should know why. because the fans are fucking fed up with their half measures. But they'll pretend to not understand. They're too arrogant to understand. At least things have calmed down in Queens. Like, there haven't been any major announcements out of Citi Field in the last couple of weeks, so they're giving the Mets fans a break from a lot of agony that they've had to suffer more than usual. But MSG right now is not fun. Everything happening in Midtown New York right now is not good. The Rangers are, I almost feel bad for them. And I normally, I would be dancing on their graves, but I can't say much because the Devils are spiraling the drain. And I'll get into more of that in a little bit. But Igor Shesterkin just went on the IR. No one really knows how long it's gone, or no one really knows how long he's going to be gone for. It looked like it was a knee injury. It was a non-contact injury, which is scary. So I'm hoping that everything's okay with him. As much as I love laughing at Igor when he has a bad game, you never want to see that, especially when he's the best goaltender in hockey. And the Rangers need him back. He was the one thing they had that was keeping them from falling off a cliff competitively. They got killed by Boston yesterday. They lost 10-2. It's going to be a lot of stuff like that, especially when you have these videos coming out. JT Miller dogging it on shifts, and he has a captain. He has a captain's letter on his chest, and you see him dogging it pretty consistently. That's not a great look. The Islanders are the only ones doing anything. The Islanders are playing great right now. Matthew Schaefer looks great. They just kicked the shit out of the Devils 9-0. And that's how I'm going to segue into my little Devils rant for the 7th straight episode or whatever we're on now. I spoke about the very first episode that I did that this Devils Coors window, if they did not grow up quickly, was in serious danger of being shut. And I think we are just about at that. The Devils have been playing like garbage for a year now. They've been less than 500 at the NHL level of 500, including overtime points, for a calendar year. And in their last 20 games, they're like 4-16-1 or something like that. Something putrid. And it all came to a head the other day when we were playing the Carolina Hurricanes. After we just wrapped up beating the Columbus Blue Jackets in comeback fashion, and then we beat the Utah Mammoth 4-1. Then we played Carolina on a back-to-back. And it was a closely contested game. But then Luke Hughes happened with 2 own goals, nearly a third. Jake Allen bowed him out. And the crowd finally had enough. Every time Luke had touched the puck for the rest of the game, he got the shit booed out of him. At first, I was like, you know what? He does deserve these boos. You just got paid $9 million. You held out a training camp. You've played like crap all year. Now you have 2 own goals against our biggest rival in the Eastern Conference currently, who we're supposed to be beating by this time. We're supposed to be ahead of in the standings. We're supposed to be competing with them for a Stanley Cup. And you make terrible decisions with the puck, and it costs your team gravely. That compounded with the fans seeing the writing on the wall with how bad this team actually is and how they are not going to be contending for a Stanley Cup caused the fans to boo this man every time he touched the puck for the rest of the game. And it wasn't exactly great of the fan base to do that. Did he deserve to be booed? Yes, absolutely. But when you do that for an entire rest of the game, especially when you're only trailing 2-1, I don't know, man. I wouldn't have kept booing if I was in the stadium. I probably would have been telling people like, yo, chill out. Like, this isn't helping. I'm sure he's well aware that what he did was bad. And I give him credit. I give Luke Hughes credit for talking to the media after the game and owning up to his mistakes. And Nico Hischier going out after the game after he wasn't scheduled to be speaking to the media and defending Luke. Good on you. But then the next game happens. And this is the 9-0 shellacking that the Islanders gave us. And it got to a point where I was absolutely rooting for the Islanders to get to 10. Make it 10. Make it a touchdown, extra point, and a field goal, man. Like, run it up. This team needs to be embarrassed because this has gone on for too long. And I was certain that Tom Fitzgerald was going to get fired. I don't put this on Keefe. I think he's running a system that the team is not made for based on the directive from the front office because of their analytics department telling them that, hey, this is the best way to replicate how the Hurricanes or the Florida Panthers play. When we're just not built to play that style. We're meant to play a run and gun style of hockey, score off the rush, constantly put pressure on you. This team has turned into a defense first that doesn't play defense well at all. They're not meant to play defense for longer periods of time, clearly, because they're bleeding goals left and right. But the fact that they came out after that Luke Hughes game and we were expecting them to have some sort of a response in terms of just emotional, they didn't look like they want to be there. The Islanders scored at will. Jacob Markstrom had the worst performance by a goalie in recorded history since advanced analytics had been incorporated into the game. And since they started tracking those type of metrics, he had like almost 8 goals against that he should have saved, which is unfathomable. And this, again, was the guy that we all talked about. No one was holding a gun to Tom Fitzgerald's head saying we need to extend Jacob Markstrom when he was already playing badly in October of this year. But now he goes and has this game. And normally, after the third goal, a coach would pull that goalie. You don't want to shatter his confidence. You never need a goalie as a head case because you need to have someone that you can rely on. And Sheldon, I think, had gotten to the point where Jacob Markstrom has been so bad this season. He had like 2 really good games in a row, and then he went back to being awful again. But what I think Sheldon Keefe was trying to do, and Ryan Novozinski talked about this on his podcast after the game, I think what Sheldon Keefe was trying to do was stick it to Tom Fitzgerald and say, okay, you wanted to pay this guy and you want me to run with him? This is what you just paid us. This is what you just lit $6 million a year on fire for the next 2 years. He was trying to prove a point. There's no way a professional hockey coach would allow his goaltender to get out there and be barraged like that without it having some sort of meaning behind it. And then the team, after the game, is talking about how embarrassing it was, and Nico is expecting the team to respond. They lose the next game. They lose in Pittsburgh 4-1. They were just as uninspired as they have been the past couple of games. They scored a goal at least. And then they lost today to Winnipeg, who is last in the league. They are tied for last in the entire NHL, and they lost to them 4-3. And this was all going on while Fitz has apparently been working behind the scenes trying to get Dougie Hamilton to waive his no movement clause, which should have been done over the summer because now Quinn Hughes is on the Minnesota Wild. And if we had traded Dougie in the offseason and worked on getting him if we've worked on Dougie Hamilton getting off of this team over the summer when we should have been, when we could have had better optics and not having to scratch him in favor of Johnny Kovacevic, this just makes the Devils look even worse. Not only is the team in a worse position optically, but you just know that Dougie Hamilton is going to get traded to a team that's going to be able to utilize his skill set. Dougie Hamilton, for whatever reason this year, he's sacrificed his offense to play defense, and he hasn't been good at it. He hasn't been good at playing defense. We need Dougie Hamilton to be an offensive D-man, and he can't do it anymore on the system, whatever Keefe has employed. It just doesn't work with him. But this locker room is so toxic and so broken between Markstrom not getting pulled, Dougie not wanting to waive his no movement clause and being healthy scratch, and that's sending ripples across the locker room. Andre Palat having an A on his chest and as an alternate captain and being on the ice for 5 goals against for the Islanders the other night. Bryce Salvador is ripping this team to shreds in intermission, and he's a TV commentator for the Devils. He's a color commentator. This is unlike anything I've ever seen come out of this organization. This season is over for all intents and purposes. Let's be real. The team is broken, and the season is over. There is no coming back from where they're at right now. And I think this core, within the next 48 hours before this team goes home to play on Wednesday, we're going to see a major shakeup in the roster. A fan favorite's going to get traded, and it's going to be for something stupid. Is Tom Fitzgerald desperate to right this ship? Someone's going to get fired. Someone's going to get traded. Because if it's status quo going into Wednesday night, there might be riots in the Prudential Center. Because you just know the Devils are going to give up the first goal. If you guys want to start making money too, start betting whatever your max bet you can get and put it on whoever the Devils are playing that night to score first. And you will be a millionaire in no time. It's not financial advice, but you might be able to pay off your house in a couple months if you keep doing it. This fan base is they're not apathetic. They are enraged. I see the conversation happening on Twitter. These people are out for blood. We've gone through a almost 15-year rebuild. This is worse than anything the Devils experienced in the 80s because this group of guys was supposed to be good. They were supposed to be competing for a Stanley Cup. And they are nowhere close. And this team that Tom Fitzgerald assembled after 2023 has completely fallen apart. Jack Hughes looks disinterested. Nico Hischier is not contributing. I don't care that he had a goal today. That's like his first goal in like 20 games. Jesper Bratt couldn't hit a wide open empty net if he wanted to. This team is broken. And it just might be time to blow it all up. Sell everything that isn't nailed down. Try and get what you can for Nico. Try and get what you can for Jack. Try and get what you can for Luke. Try and get what you can for Jesper Bratt because it's not working. This team was supposed to be so good. And they have failed at every test. Every sign of adversity they faced these last 2 seasons, they have crumbled. And they keep finding new rock bottoms. It's like they get to rock bottom and someone just happens to step on a stick of dynamite and blows it up and they fall 10,000 feet further into the earth. And there's more dynamite down there and they keep stepping on it. Every loss they have is just like this monumentally embarrassing thing. They can't just be losing like 4-3, like, oh, they're in games. They're like trying. No, they're losing games 5-1, 9-0, getting shut out. Historic goalie performances in the most negative way. Sheldon Keefe is lashing out at reporters because they're asking about him if he is concerned for his job. The Devils are broken. And it's sad to think that the window is completely shut, and here we go again with another rebuild. I think the actual, real Devils fans are enraged by what they have seen because it has been mind-numbing decision after bad decision after more mind-numbing decisions after more bad decisions over and over and over again. And this team is way too talented to be playing this badly. Somebody needs to be fired. The entire front office needs to be on the unemployment line after this season. because it doesn't seem like ownership cares enough to fire them in season. They like Fitz enough to keep him. And I don't know where the Devils go from here. I really don't. The last episode, I talked about how the Knicks were primed to go on a title run after they won the in-season tournament. And with how well they were playing, how they came out of the in-season tournament and they won the game after that. But it has been a real tough stretch for them since then. They got blown out by Detroit by 30 points. They lost 6 out of their last 10 games. A bunch of teams that they should have handled pretty easily. Karl-Anthony Towns has been really bad. I wonder if he is still injured. I know he got injured in that in-season tournament game. Brunson seems like the only one capable of doing anything every night. Mikal Bridges is a good player, but I bet the Knicks wish they still had a couple of those first-round picks they gave up for him right now, because the Knicks need reinforcements in a worst way, and they don't have any draft capital to make additions at the deadline. They could have had Giannis, and that doesn't look like it's going to happen anymore. So the Knicks need to figure it out. If they are still playing like this a week and a half from now, I'll be very concerned. But for right now, every team goes through a rough patch. I am not overly concerned there. But if they don't turn it around, Knicks fans are going to be just as irate as the Devils fans. The other MSG team, the last MSG team that there are not so good vibes around, St. John's. They rebounded the other day. They got a win after blowing that game to Providence, where they had a lead late in the second half. That was a game that they should have won, and pretty easily. I know they don't have a point guard right now, but Providence is a decent team. That's not a team that you should be blowing a game to, especially in your own house. Seton Hall, they keep winning, man. I don't know how. They're driving my blood pressure through the roof. 3 straight double-digit comebacks for Dubs. They got their ass kicked by Villanova, but that was Willard coming back, and I think that was an emotional game for Shaheen Holloway. He still has some learning to do. Kevin Willard is still the master, but I do still love Shaheen and the way he is coaching this team so far. I do wish Seton Hall would stop getting into these double-digit deficits that they got to climb out of every single game. But they make for some really exciting watches down the stretch, because you know that they're never actually out of a game, even when they do seem like they are. They should have beaten Georgetown by 20 yesterday, and the fact that they had to come back from that really... I was nervous because that was going to be a bad loss. There is a chance that they are ranked tomorrow. At this point, I hope it doesn't happen, because even with the Willard coach teams, this team just doesn't do well with a target on its back. And the commentators during the game yesterday were talking about how no one is taken by surprise by the Seton Hall Pirates anymore. And it's true. Everyone sees Seton Hall and they get up for that game now, which is fun. You know, it's good to be wanted to be played like that. But they need to get it together, and they need to learn how to run an offense that's just not straight in transition. Their defensive effort has been fantastic. The rebounding needs to be a little bit better, but they need to figure out how to run an offense. Bud Clark has been good, but he can't do it alone. We need State McRae to get back to being his normal self and what we saw in non-conference play. And finally, UConn. They just keep steamrolling everyone. I don't think they are going to be going away for a long time. With Michigan going down, they could absolutely contend for the number 2 seed in the entire tournament. UConn is just that good. It's going to be them and Arizona now. And Michigan will rebound from their loss yesterday, but it's Arizona and UConn at the top at this point. Maybe Iowa State, Houston, but they are the cream of the crop in terms of college basketball. So I don't have too much else for you guys. I've been rambling and ranting a bunch. I miss doing this. I miss hearing from you guys. I can't wait to get this out. So now we're going to be back to our regular schedule, going about once a week, every Sunday or so, give or take. So if I don't speak to you guys, I know the Chargers-Patriots game is going on right now. I'm going to go watch the end of that while I'm editing this and getting it out to you all. But until then, I hope that there is some positive changes anywhere on the show. I really want to start talking about fun things with the professional teams in the area, but they're all making it so fucking difficult. Like they're all just so incompetent, and it's not fun. Yeah. I hope everyone had a happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever the hell you celebrate. I hope it was a good one. I'm glad to be back on here, and we're gonna have a wonderful rest of 2026. Peace out.